For this video, I will be talking about The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, the second top-down game in the Legend of Zelda series, and one of the most iconic entries in the whole series. A Link to the Past is one of my favorite Zelda games, and one of my absolute favorite Super Nintendo games. The premise of A Link to the Past is that not long prior to the beginning of the game, a wizard named Aghanim entered Hyrule and subsequently overthrew Hyrule Castle with the intention of breaking the seal to a land called the Golden Land. The seal in question was placed long before by 7 wise men. He locked Princess Zelda in the castle dungeon and started using dark magic on girls descended from the 7 wise men to try to break the seal. These girls are called the 7 Maidens. The game begins with the game's protagonist Link sleeping at his and his uncle's house. He receives a telepathic message from Zelda asking him to rescue her from the castle dungeon and informing him about Aghanim's plot. Without going into all the details, Link goes to the castle dungeon, rescues Zelda, and goes with her through a secret passage from the castle to a sanctuary. In the sanctuary, Link learns that Zelda is the last maiden that Aghanim needs to break the seal. Link also learns that he needs the Master Sword in order to stop Aghanim. Link sets off on his journey as the sage at the sanctuary watches over Zelda. I will now talk about the gameplay. One of my favorite things about the gameplay is the well-executed sword attack scheme. The standard sword swing is smooth, fast, and has good range both in front of Link and to the sides of Link. The spin attack is easily my favorite attack in the game. It is powerful, attacks all nearby enemies and strikeable objects, and has a good attack radius around Link. In addition, Link has his sword in front of him while he charges the move, adding frontal protection and reducing potential frustration from frontal attacks on Link. The dash that can be used with the Pegasus boots is both fun and useful. The speed is good if the player doesn't want to walk, and Link having his sword in front of him is a great convenience, because this way the sword can kill or damage enemies and reduces frustration as a result. Breaking down fragile walls with the dash and knocking things down from certain locations with the dash are also fun. The items that Link can use in the game are easy to use, smooth to control, and greatly varied, giving Link a wide range of abilities outside of sword fighting. The wide range of abilities adds a rewarding sense to obtaining items and give the sense that Link grows as a person. My favorite item is the bow and arrows, due to the strength of the arrows and the ability of the arrows to hit faraway enemies and objects. I love the dungeons in the game because of the great blend of exploration and puzzle solving in the dungeons, and because the puzzles are cleverly designed. On a related note, another thing that makes the items great is the way they can be used to solve puzzles. For example, some items can strike a crystal switch, which causes blue and orange blocks to rise or retract depending on the color of the switch. My favorite thing about the game is the parallel world mechanic. Eventually, the player has to travel between the light world, which the game starts off in, and the dark world, which looks like a corrupted version of the light world. When the dark world becomes part of the gameplay, the pair of worlds becomes one big puzzle or a large collection of puzzles, however you want to look at it. Either way, the great blend of exploration and puzzle solving in the dungeons is expanded to outside the dungeons, making a game already great because of the dungeons even better. Both worlds are well drawn and colorful. The light world is bright and beautiful, and the dark world has color schemes that go well with the world's gloomy and sinister environment. I also love the overworld music of both worlds. The light world is upbeat and catchy, creates a sense of adventure, and is a great remix of the overworld theme from the very first Zelda game. The dark world's overworld theme goes well with the gloomy atmosphere, creates a sense of a more dangerous adventure, and goes well with Link's courage. On a related note, I love the sequence that plays as Link teleports between the two worlds. I would now like to talk about the story. The story is emotional and well written, and has likable characters including Princess Zelda and Sahasrara, the elder of Kakariko Village. On a related note, Aghanim is a great villain due to his powerful magic, his brainwashing of the Hyrule Knights, and the air of hopelessness he adds to the game. There are a lot of great cutscenes in the game too. I am about to give away 2 cutscenes in the game. One of my favorites is the scene where Link pulls the Master Sword. The pull itself is satisfying, as is the triumphant song that plays in the scene. Another one of my favorite scenes is after the first fight against Aghanim, which I would like to add is a great fight. Aghanim sending Link to the Dark World looks cool because of the teleport sequence I mentioned earlier, and the emotional telepathic message from Sahasrara. The resulting scene is a great start to the scenario involving the Dark World dungeons. I will now talk about the game's dungeons. The Hyrule Castle scenario I mentioned in my description of the premise is a great start to the game. It is a great introduction to the aspects common among the dungeons in the game: exploration, puzzle solving, combat, and treasure. The exterior and interior of the castle are beautiful, and the music inside the castle is great. It goes well with an enemy-infested royal castle, and goes well with the start of an adventure. The other dungeons not only have clever puzzles, but also look great and are greatly varied in terms of color scheme, environment, obstacles, and enemies. The Light World's dungeon song creates a sense of mystery and intrigue, and goes well with the lightheartedness of the Light World. The Dark World's dungeon theme is even better. It creates an unsettling dungeon atmosphere that goes well with the Dark World's overall atmosphere, and that goes well with the Dark World's dungeons being more difficult and more complex than the Light World's dungeons. I will now talk about the boss battles. The boss battles are fun because of the well-drawn and imaginative boss designs, the variety and fighting style of the bosses, and the intense and exciting boss music. I love how the Light World bosses are either light-hearted or not especially intimidating, to go with the happier Light World, and how the Dark World bosses are intimidating or disturbing, to go with the gloomy and violent Dark World. The victory song at the end of the battles is very satisfying, as is Link's victory pose. I will now talk about the final dungeon of the game, and my favorite dungeon of the game, Ganon's Tower. The scenario at Ganon's Tower starts off great with a satisfying cutscene in which the 7 maidens break the seal on Ganon's Tower. Ganon's Tower itself combines several of the great puzzles from previous dungeons, has refights against the 4 Light World bosses, and adds its own great things. As a result, the tower is a great way to remind the player of how far they have come, a satisfying end to the dungeon component of the game, and a dungeon that is greater than the sum of its parts. One of the 4 refights I mentioned is against Aghanim, and his refight is fittingly the last fight in the dungeon, and a great fight at that. Although the dungeon is called Ganon's Tower, Aghanim fits as its main boss due to him being the main antagonist and to him being Ganon's alter ego. On a related note, I love the scene after Aghanim's defeat, wherein Ganon emerges, turns into a bat, and flies to the pyramid at the center of the Dark World. Link calling his bird friend to carry Link and pursue Ganon is fun to watch. Now I would like to talk about the final battle against Ganon, which is inside the pyramid and is my favorite battle in the game. The fight is great because of the intense and fitting music, and because of Ganon's great character design, well-drawn sprites, wide range of cool attacks, and teleportation. The battle consists of 2 phases. In the second phase, Ganon causes the torches to go out, and the resulting darkness and his invisibility make the battle more intense and exciting, and as a result, make his defeat very satisfying. The boss victory song playing at the end of the battle and the door to the Triforce room opening up are also very satisfying. I will now talk about the ending. The scene in the Triforce room is great because of the dialogue spoken by the essence of the Triforce, the 3 polygonal Triforce pieces dancing in the air, and the great music befitting the end of a long, difficult fantasy adventure. The end of this scene is satisfying because of the brief victorious song, the 3 Triforce pieces combining, and Link grabbing the Triforce to make his wish. The montage of epilogues in different regions of the Light World is great because of the beautiful song and because it shows the results of Link's journey and of his wish. Seeing the king, the sanctuary sage, Link's uncle, and the flute boy revived as a result of Link's wish is heartwarming. The final epilogue scene, wherein Link returns the Master Sword to its pedestal, is a satisfying close to Link's mission. The credit sequence is great because of the beautiful song, the dancing Triforce pieces, and the background image depicting the Dark World returning to its original form, the Golden Land. Overall, A Link to the Past continues to easily stand strong among Zelda games and video games in general, and is a timeless masterpiece that, with its clever puzzles, great items, likable characters, and emotional story, is a great representation of what makes the Zelda series a strong video game series. That concludes my review of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Take care.